I'm just getting the architect on the line.
I would like to call to order the April the 14th,
Hi, Tom. This is Kat Moody.
2017 public hearing of the
Go ahead.
Prescott Preservation Commission.
I'm going to go ahead and conference you go into this
Members
call,
present,
okay?
starting on my right,
All right.
Mr. Tony Teeters, Miss Christy Haight.
Okay.
I'm in the
so
wrong
I should
seat.
have Tom, Andrew?
It's okay, Mike. I know who you are. My new Vice Chairman, Michael King.
Thank you.
Put you
Welcome.
on speakerphone and you'll
Christy
hear the beginning of
Hastings,
the meeting.
Russ Buchanan.
And then we'll give you a chance
Starting
to speak
to my
after
left
I do
here
my presentation.
is Robert Burford, our newest member, Michael Mirko, and I am Gary Edelbrock, the chair. This is an open meeting and is being videotaped and recorded by the city of Prescott. Can you hear me? Oh, well. Sorry about that.
Is the mic on?
Pardon me?
Yes, he's just
The open meeting is being videotaped and recorded by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representative of the public meeting, local cable and or radio stations to be rebroadcast. The number of commission members is present. It'll require 4 votes for a majority. All parties wishing to be heard on the issues are required to raise their hand and will be recognized by the chairman prior to speaking. Speakers are expected to state their name, address for the record, so that we know who's speaking and contact them later if necessary. Please turn off all cell phones and electronic devices. Guess that's it. Our newest member is Michael Mirko, and if you'd be kind enough to introduce yourself to the commission. You can sit down, Michael.
My name is Michael Mirko. I've been living in Prescott for 22 years. I live on North Mount Vernon Street in a home that was built in 1901. I am a restorator of things, from homes to cars, furniture. I have an interest in the old. That brought me here after I've retired. I am also a member of the American Legion. I am the senior vice commander there. I do have an interest in the city and the community, and that's what brings me here.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome.
Quite welcome. Thank you.
By the way, the staff members are here. Kat Moody, who's our historic preservation specialist. I don't see George Worley in their room. Oh, George, there you are, hiding back there. Darla Eastman, who's our administrative assistant and records keeper, and Councilman Steve Shishka. So, I think the first order of business is approve the minutes of our last meeting.
When was that?
Hell, I don't know. February the 10th, it looks like. I called the meeting to order and announced sadly that Chairman, if everybody had the opportunity to read the minutes from our last meeting. Any changes? Motion to approve. Mr. Russ?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 17th meeting.
10th.
2010.
You're right.
Second.
We have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Teeters. A vote, please. Raise your right hand. Unanimous approval. Thank you. So today, our meeting is going to there's a request from a person who occupies or owns a historic home in the number 10 Pinecrest District, and it's located at 939 Apache Drive, and the owners are Betsy and Jared Maddox at 939 Apache Drive. Kat.
Good morning. As stated, this is a request for a remodel at 939 Apache Drive in the Pinecrest Historic District. This home is listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and the request is for an addition in the rear. The original portion of the house, which is a bit difficult to see because of the trees in this shot, but I think this is probably going to be the best view. The original portion of the house is here with the front porch and these two sections. And in a later addition, the original portion was constructed in 1924. There was a later addition, which is this two-story kind of a tower-like structure to the side. So not all the portion of the house that's existing right now was part of that 1924 original construction. The proposal is to build an addition, and I'm going to switch here to the site plan, and I've color-coded this so it would be easier to see what exactly is being proposed. The blue here is the original portion of the home. That's that 1924 section. The green here on the plan is that tower section. The green is labeled here as existing to be remodeled. The pink section here is the proposed new construction in the rear. And then this yellow section here is the garage, which they are proposing to remove. And I've got one shot of the garage here in the photos of the existing conditions. So this is a garage with I think they've labeled this as the bonus room. And so that's an L-shaped structure, and they are proposing to remove that garage. We'll let the applicant speak to that, but I checked with the architect. He said he believes that's the intention, but we will verify that with the owner once they're up and speaking. So the proposal is the existing conditions, just to give you an idea of what's there currently. This is the lower right here is the view from the front, so this is the original portion. This is that two-story tower section. So this is the existing from the rear. So you can see there's kind of a gap here between the tower and this taller gable roof. The proposal is to fill in that gap. So they are proposing to take this roof line and create a new gable end, which would create and extend that over to the tower. And so here's a shot of what that looks like from the other side. There's a false dormer that is here along that long plane of that gable roof. And I'm going to put up some of these other 3D views just to give you some ideas of what this could look like. So this is the new section of the roof here, tying the tower to the existing historic portion of the home. And this is the view from the rear of the property. This is the view from the front of the property. So this would all be new construction, this infill in here. And this is a view from the other side where you can see the new section here. The existing home is approximately, the architect's reporting that it's 1,201 square feet currently. The proposed addition would take the house to 1,560 square feet. So that's an addition of 359 square feet to the home. And one of the things I've done to provide you with a comparison within the neighborhood, and you all got this map at your seats this morning. This is something we've done in the past to evaluate the comparative floor area ratios of properties surrounding this property in order that you would have some comparison for how much home versus lot coverage there is for these properties in the neighborhood. So this is this depicts the floor area ratio, and it's a color-coded map. So the properties with floor area ratios up to 0.1 are in light, and then the properties with the highest floor area ratio are shown darker here. The darkest properties have a floor area ratio between 0.3 and 0.35. So what that means is the lighter properties here have less lot coverage. Their square foot of home to lot is lower, and then the properties with a very high level of home to lot, a lot more home on a small lot type of scenario, are shown in a darker color here. So currently, this is the property here at 939 Apache. Currently, the floor area ratio is 0.12, which is pretty much identical to some of the other adjoining properties around it down here on this end of the curve of Apache Drive. The proposed addition would take this property up to 0.16, which would bump it into the next category up, the 0.15 to 0.20. So that's some of these properties here in the medium toned are at that same level. So that just gives you some idea of the context within which to consider this request. The guidelines for the district in regards to the architectural style of this proposed addition, the guidelines in the master plan encourage scale consistent with the existing structures. We encourage gable and hip roofs consistent with the historic pattern. We encourage additions to the rear of the existing houses, preserving the historic front facades. We encourage wood, horizontal, and shingle siding. Encourage stem walls with raised porches. Encourage details consistent with the historic style of the building. And those are the most relevant to this particular proposal out of the recommendations in the master plan. Some of the elements from that list that have been met, the existing home has what's called a clipped gable roof, which is that little clipped gable end. So the new gable end is consistent with that style. The siding would be consistent with the horizontal siding that's existing on the house. And the windows would be, the new windows are proposed to meet the window requirements, which is an all-wood window. This home had its windows replaced with an all-wood window in the not-too-distant past. So the new windows in this addition would be matching that existing window configuration. And with that, I believe we do have, we have the architects on the phone. And we also have people from the neighborhood who I believe would like to speak. So Andrew and Tom, do you have something you would like to add that I did not cover?
Sure. This is Tom. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Sorry we can't be there in person. But I just want to say that our approach on this project has been in keeping with a lot of the work we've done on historic homes. We're in Oak Park, Illinois, and have had the privilege to work on a number of historic homes and sit on the Preservation Commission here. So I understand and appreciate what you're doing, taking time to do this. So just in brief, our approach to the project has been to try to accommodate a third bedroom and an additional bath in this rather small house so that they can move the family in. And we're kind of from a budget as well as a historic standpoint trying to be as sort of modest as possible. We tried a few different approaches and settled on this because we thought it was the most sensitive to the existing massing and had the sort of least impact from the street. We recognize that it is a kind of a long gable, so we broke that up with a small dormer. But in balance, felt like it was the best way to kind of maintain the existing complexity and mass that's there, and obviously working with the existing siding materials and roof, just to try to respect the character and scale as much as possible.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
And then Jay is the homeowner. Would you like to say something before I open it up for the neighbors to speak? Okay, go ahead and come to.
Morning.
Please identify yourself.
Jared Maddox. I'm the homeowner at 939 Apache.
Thank you, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak about the remodel of our property at 939 Apache. 10 years ago this last month, my wife Betsy and I married here in Prescott. I recall that even before our marriage, we dreamed of living here in Prescott in a historic home. As many of you can relate, we had fallen in love with the scenery, the pace, and the recreation opportunities only the Central Highlands of Arizona can afford. This past June, my family relocated here and quickly made ourselves at home. I am an English teacher at nearby Bradshaw Mountain High School and hope to one day be an area superintendent. My wife is an interior designer by trade, but works in the construction industry for a company that designs and fabricates custom modular wall systems for commercial and residential spaces. But she also hopes to one day own a local business and be a part of the economic growth of the city. My son, Timothy, is 8 years old and loves soccer. My daughter, Sia, is 6 years old and is a free spirit, much like her mother. Our love of historic homes is evident in the 2 previous properties we owned in Oak Park, Illinois, a village that lies just to the west of the city of Chicago. Oak Park is renowned for the Frank Lloyd Wright Home and Studio, as well as over 2,000 historic homes and commercial spaces, many of which are some of the finest examples of Queen Anne, Prairie School, and Craftsman-style architecture. Our first home was a modest stucco bungalow with 2 bedrooms and a single bathroom. With a growing family, we needed more space. Eventually, we purchased a brick American 4-square home with a green clay tile roof. Immediately, we set upon the task of updating the home and completed numerous renovations to suit our family's needs, while at the same time keeping the home historic in nature. Given our experience, we felt that 939 Apache afforded us the opportunity to once again live in a historic home and plant some roots for many years to come. However, we recognize that the home needs to be upgraded to fit the needs of a modern family. This is why we enlisted the help of Tom Bassett-Dilley, our architect. Tom and his associate Andrew know historic home renovations well. Tom is also a leader in green architecture and, in our opinion, has a unique capacity to marry green building techniques with historic architecture. As you can see in the drawings, the remodel will not only fit the needs of our family, but work in scale with the other homes in the neighborhood. It is my opinion that in a few years the home will look like it was always there in the remodeled configuration. As for our new neighbors, I only wish we had the opportunity to introduce ourselves before the meeting today. Thankfully, we have met a few of you and be able to share our joy at the opportunity to live in the Pinecrest District. We understand that this project will cause some inconvenience and would like to apologize ahead of time. I promise that we will do whatever we can do to minimize the impact on the neighborhood. All I can say is that we would like to welcome everyone to an open house once the project is complete, and I have been known to make excellent barbecue. Thank you. Kat, would you like me to?
I want to clarify, do you intend to remove the entire garage? Is that?
No.
Okay.
Could you go back
Yeah.
to, please?
To this?
So the L-shaped structure consists of a single-car garage, which, Kat, thank you.
Yep.
To the right is what is described as the bonus room. To make the site work for the small addition, which is highlighted in pink, we would need to remove the single-car portion of that space only. We want to use existing building materials from the garage to reface that one side of the bonus room so we can keep that space for storage purposes.
Okay, so you're just removing this section of the garage, and this would remain?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
And if I could just interject one more thing on that. In our planning and trying to make this project work both from a spatial and structural standpoint, there's an existing structural condition over there where the house basically has a very strange kind of flying beam that comes in, and one part sits on a rock, another part sits on the garage. So we're trying to figure out how to bolster the new house, the remodeled house structurally. So our decision was to push out that corner of the house towards the garage so that we could build some new shear walls and give the whole house a strong corner there for wind load resistance, and fix what is right now a very unusual and non-code compliant appearing structural condition.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, I'd like to open it up to anyone from the neighborhood who'd like to weigh in on this.
My name's Dixie Sargent, and I live at 937 Apache, which they currently call the Nixon House. This structure, I'm so happy to have neighbors that want to make our houses better and to repair them and to bring them up to code. My only issue is that the entire rebuild faces my yard, and it will also take it up high enough that it will block sunlight. There is flooding issues, erosion issues right now from that property down to my property. The original parcel, sometime before I bought the parcel, had a property line that was grandfathered to allow them to build the garage that they're talking about removing. My question is, if they take down the garage, do I get that property back? It is in record as a grandfathered boundary line. Also, the boulders are along that edge. I don't know, I saw on one of them that they're planning not to move the boulder. We do share the boulders. I just have a lot of concerns environmentally, structurally, what is going to happen, because we sit on the top of the hill and it begins to go downhill in my yard. And prior owners took it upon themselves to collect all the rainwater from all four corners of the roof and to put it in my yard. They actually attached pipes during rainy season and collected the water and allowed it to erode my yard. And I don't know what the plan is to do with all that water. I know there was water damage into the garage cottage thing on their property. I'm nervous. I don't know why. I'm just concerned with the massive way that it appears on the plan as to what I what I will now view. I moved into the area because of the small cottage look. The house on the other side of me was recently demolished and rebuilt. It is no longer a quaint cottage. It is just any generic square house. And no offense, but the character of it is gone. So that's a concern. That's been an ongoing construction for over a year. And I spent a whole lot of money just redoing the inside of my house, and I'm still not done. And my mindset has always been to maintain the integrity and the historical ability, I mean, not ability, but the look of the home, and to not try to make it into something more modern, because the reason I moved into the neighborhood was because it is quaint, the homes are small, and it fits the lifestyle of more of a retirement community of no children. I don't mean anything against you having children. That's not how I mean it. But the neighborhood's built that way, and it's always sort of been that type of neighborhood. My 5 minutes is up. I'm not articulating myself very well, but I feel a sadness of the possibility of losing the look that I have on my property. There's 3 of us that have very large lots, or I think 4 people that have very large lots, and I'm one of them. And
So you're located right here, just
Yes.
so that people have an idea.
And at one time, the boundary line went in a straight line instead of turning. It was grandfathered to allow the people that built that garage structure to have it. There's also an electrical pole that's directly behind it, almost touching that garage structure, and I'm concerned about how that's going to affect it. And so the electrical lines got strewn across my property at one point. That something's going to happen. I was told by APS that they're going to have to move it. I don't want it moved further onto my property. So I have a lot of concerns, and I just feel like it's none of my business what anyone does on their own property, but I just have a lot of questions on how it's going to affect my property. It's directly on their line. So
Thank you. Anyone else?
Robert,
Oh,
did
could
you?
I, in these photos, is maybe that,
Yeah.
those first photos, is your property the one with the fence?
No.
No, it's,
The fence is actually on their property. The fence this is a landscaped area in here, so that fence is right here.
oh, okay, thank you.
Her property is on this side, adjoining.
That's what I don't understand. I realize
Can you-
they're increasing the square footage of their home, and that's great. But they have this huge square footage of land, and they're not using any of it. Instead, they're just building up and pressing right up against the property line, which it's kind of misleading the way this looks, because actually the garage sits like right there on the property line, and then the boulders are shared. The prior owners took it upon themselves to build a patio over the property line, and that since has been resolved by having the property both looked at again. But it seems like there's like all this room that they could have used to increase it at a lower level and made it still look historical. And again, it's not, I can't tell someone how to build their house. That's not why I'm here. I'm just concerned about what my view will be from now on.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak from the neighborhood? Okay.
Could I have a question?
Yeah.
I just got a little bit more confused with, am I on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
With that existing garden there, that's the Maddox's property?
Yes, it is.
That's all their property?
Yep.
So the fence is not a property line?
No. The
Okay.
fence is this fence here,
Yeah.
and to the right here is their garden.
Uh-huh.
And you can see, some of the rocks that Dixie was just
Okay,
referring
okay.
to.
No, the rocks are on the
Thank
other
you.
side. I live on the other side.
The other side of it, yeah.
You live, this is some of the rocks here, right, on the side that you're on.
Yes.
Yep.
have a question.
Yep.
Being the newcomer, I've always heard of setbacks, and I'm hearing that this garage is right on the property line. There's no setback.
Right. Do you?
No, it's not true.
I'm asking. I'm not.
Yeah, there's about a 5-foot setback. Andrew, do you have that number handy?
Yeah, looking at the plan now, approximately like 3 to 5 feet at the smallest point, about 5 feet from the northwest corner.
So the situation here is that, and this is the case all over Prescott, these structures were built before we had planning and zoning regulations, and so they don't adhere to setbacks. They're grandfathered in their current configuration. New construction has to meet the setbacks. So that has to meet the setbacks for this area. But right now that garage is grandfathered in. You would not be able to reconstruct a garage inside the current setbacks. So once they remove it, they've lost the grandfather status for that structure.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King.
Relative to the ratio that you had floor to area, and I think we just learned that we're not going to remove the whole garage, we're still leaving the bonus room. Was that in the consideration of the ratio, or were
No, the floor area ratio is for the main structure
does
only.
not include the garage?
Right.
Okay. So
Yeah, because I had to do that based on the assessor data, so that's what I had available to me for the entire neighborhood, is based on what the assessor shows the square footage as.
Okay, so that's uniform to all of the properties
Yes,
that you
it
did
is.
the
It's
ratio on.
consistent.
So the bonus area doesn't change the floor to area ratio. Thank you. Now, just to kind of address it just give me another shot, please, of the front or
Of the
well,
proposed?
Okay, so yeah, there you go. So as far as setbacks and the like and the footprint, as I see it, where the tower is and the extension of the tower, which I think you said is pink, and then we're going to
Yes.
remove the part of the garage, we're still pretty much on the same footprint.
Other
foot-
than the pink portion that I've got, the
Right,
new
right.
footprint area, yeah.
And what is that distance from the tower, what we call the tower, to the new? What is that distance from the new addition? That pink area. How many feet does that extend that tower? Excuse me. Is that a 5 foot, 10 foot?
Andrew, can you, the pink area,
What's the question? You want to know what the
the pr-
approximate extension is on the second floor?
yes.
The addition?
Yeah, so,
8 feet by about 11 feet.
Okay, eight.
Between 80 to 88 feet, approximately.
Thank you. So it's 8 feet further. I got you to the right.
Mike, page 11 here, or I guess
Andrew,
11
if you're
shows.
talking about extending the tower to the east,
yes.
that
Right.
dimension there is that you're saying we're going about it?
Correct.
8 feet there.
Eight.
Okay.
There it is. I see it. Thank you. Thank you.
So that's, as Robert pointed out, page 11 here in the plan shows that.
Okay.
That's what we on the site plan I've highlighted in pink.
Okay, thank you. Then is there a shot of the front or whatever thing, an elevate? There you go. Thank you. That gable roof that comes up, we're still maintaining the same angle as the original roof line that we have now. We're just extending it up. But I'm going back to Ms. Sargent's concern about the height. From her property, that height won't get any higher, even though the building is higher. Based on the sun and the light that you were talking about, it seems like it's the same height. So you're not losing.
It's not going above that existing tower?
That's right.
So you're not, whatever you have now will continue. That's what I'm trying to understand as well myself. Thank you.
So that's the view that is a little bit better to see the comparison there. And that's in comparison to the existing conditions here of that tower. This is the historic portion. So they're taking this up and then dropping back to the tower section.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, so for us, it was a question of where can we put this square footage? And so from a historic standpoint, it seemed like we were best served to keep the additional space on the back of the property. I understand it will extend the element that does cast shadow by 8 feet, but the overall silhouette won't be increasing in height. And it was, you know, we did consider the idea of a one-story extension to the house, but the problem is then you wind up, A, spending a lot more money because you have to dig a lot of new foundations, and B, taking the parents' bedroom and kind of putting it really far away from the kids, sort of thing. So it seemed like from a historic standpoint, we're going to add mass either horizontally or vertically, and didn't want to extend it any higher from a visual mass standpoint. That's how we arrived at the solution we've got.
Chair recognizes Mr. Buchanan.
Yes, this whole project seems like a very reasonable acquisition of square footage, consolidated within already constructed elements of the house. I do have some questions, though. The original house is right there in the front, porch, and right there. And then at some point, the tower was constructed, and the rear portion of the house was constructed at probably another point. And the intention now is to connect the portion over here on the right with the portion, the tower on the left. Those two structures, are those permitted structures, and have they undergone an analysis as to if they're capable of supporting more, the addition?
Well, we know we're going to be adding some lateral resistance in terms of shear panels and drag struts, and that will be most likely adding some isolated pier foundations to take point load, supporting posts. We haven't engaged the structural engineer yet, but that's the next step. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm not sure if the existing foundation can take the new load, and if it can't, we'll be adding some posts inside the existing foundation to do that.
Okay. Both of those structures that were added on at some point, are either one of them on record as being as having adequate foundations and so forth? Are they permitted?
Yeah, it was at some point rebuilt with a concrete block structure that in some places ascribed to the existing rocks of the site. So when I look at the concrete block, I'm pretty sure that's a 1940s and afterward material. And so knowing the vintage of the house, I'm presuming that that's not the original foundation.
Yeah, so we're not really sure what kind of shape the foundation of the additions are at this point, right?
Yeah, we still have to confirm some of that, but what we can see looks good.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. King.
Thank you. I was thinking about this, about the piecemeal approach, because it builds on what Rusty's talking about. These are kind of rhetorical questions, but what was the size of the bungalow in 1924? Then we added a tower, then we might have added some other stuff in the back, and we say, well, we're only adding 360 square feet, but we have really added a whole lot from the original small bungalow intention. And so we're kind of at that dilemma now. We say, well, we only added 360, but prior owners in prior times have really shaped a different house there. It's a different house.
And the tower addition would not have come before this commission because the commission didn't exist when that...
It predates us, I understand.
Exactly.
Yeah. But again, going back to some of the guidelines on historical additions and the like, is you generally don't go twice the size of your original home. But we're going to be there, but over time. But right now the dilemma is not the dilemma. The issue facing us now is, you know, we can't do anything about the tower or the additions of the past. But I'll offer an opinion. The line that I see there now, looking at the bottom right corner, the tower, and the way that sits in looking at the front of the house, it's not appropriate, in my view, as far as the gables and the lines. And the addition of the roof and the dormer actually put some more integrity to a front view, fitting the roof style and the gables and the like. Aesthetically, it's a better picture for me. Now, it's bigger, of course, but aesthetically it fits the gable, the roof, the horizontal, and the like.
And just to continue with that thought, you're correct. The tower, was an addition after the original construction from the 1924 period. As far as the National Register listing is concerned, the tower was documented as part of this listing, and it was still deemed eligible for the National Register when it was originally listed in 1998. So.
Yes, I just another little clarification here, and I guess this is for Kat.
Oh, excuse me, 1989.
So you're saying we don't have any documentation for? This is the first that I heard of a second. I mean, you start with your little bungalow, then you had a second addition. You say it's obvious just from looking at it, right?
I think the tower is the only addition.
Oh, so Rusty, you were talking as if there were two additions.
There's
Correct.
a rear.
I wondered if I missed some information.
Well,
Are you
if,
just assuming something?
If those pictures could go back.
Yeah.
So over on the, let's see, over on the lower right picture, there's another addition
That.
behind. Is that an
Yes.
addition, or is that
That's
a portion of the original 24?
That's
Bungalow.
the question. That's the question.
I would have to go back to the Sanborn maps to answer that question, to be able to, so I don't know that I can give you a for sure answer without looking at the footprint through time and see if it was documented on that map.
The both gables, or neither gable matches. In other words, one is clipped and one is not.
Right, yeah, so this could have been added at a later date than from 24, but the tower is definitely after that.
We have some comments here. Somebody know this answer to this question?
Go ahead.
Would you step up and identify yourself, please?
I'm Eric Forrest. I live at 945 Yavapai Drive across the street from the Maddox family. And first, I'd like to say that we're very excited to have them in the neighborhood. We're excited to have small kids. They have a great background in the historic committee or in the community in Chicago, and they're really excited to work on this house and live in it. So you're asking some of these questions about how these houses started and what's original. The way the neighborhood was built, and the Neelys know this better than I do. I have a book about this thick that came with my house when I bought it, of all the documentation and how a lot of these cottages started out. And the way I understand it was, in the early 1900s, these lots were given away if you could do a $200 improvement. And a lot of times that meant a stove. And so a lot of these houses started out as very small structures with sleeping porches. And then over the years, they were added on to accommodate more people. It was also a TB and asthma community, and so a lot of people came and lived and slept in these sleeping porches to beat TB. So when you're asking about the footings and so on these structures and can they support what they want to do, the answer is nobody knows that until our building officials go in, and they will require drilling and to test if these structures can support these additional weights. They will not allow them to build anything unless that is the case. So from that standpoint, I think that it's only a better thing than what's there now, because we don't know what's under the ground. The other thing is, with that new design of that roof, the water shedding will be much better than it is now with moving on to the neighbor's property and so on. So I'm all excited about it. I think it's great. It's going to improve the value of the houses in the neighborhood. And let's face it, somebody could come in and buy that house if the Maddoxes deem that it's not some place that they can raise their family, pull it off the historic register, and then there's not a whole lot anybody can do about it. So thank you. I hope that helps.
Does, yes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Maddox?
Jared Maddox, 939 Apache. To answer your question, with the first addition.
This portion.
That correct, yes. If you actually go into the crawl space, you can see the old patio that was there. You can see the old steps to the back door. So when Eric said there was a sleeping porch, we found evidence of that in the binder, that those are two rear bedrooms side by side with a bathroom in the back. That was added with the addition of the crow's nest, as we've come to call it, or tower. So.
Oh, it was done at the same time? It was done
Correct,
at the
yes.
same time. I see. Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Very helpful. Very helpful.
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah, they are part of the listing. The additions are considered part of the National Register listing.
And I'd like to say there are several issues at hand here. One that I'll speak to is that where do you go back in time to say this is original or this is the most important historical configuration? Sometimes it's on commercial buildings, it's with the use. It's changed hands and has become a church or something, and that's its most important piece of history. With residences, they get added onto at will as new people live in them or people need to have a change. I think this particular one, I'd have to agree with Mike that the tower is pretty unfortunate in massing and in configuration of these cottages out there, and trying to either remove it or integrate it into this new design. I would have to say integrating it in I would applaud that. Yes, there'll be a longer gable roof going up there, but it will integrate that tower into the residence at some challenges to construction, I'm sure. We need to remember that a portion of the site, this removal of the garage will actually reduce the overall footprint of construction on the property. So we have site issues of the rocks and the water and neighboring properties, which I think can be addressed by the owner in terms of being a good neighbor and also doing what's required to address some of those issues directly. And it may be as simple as doing a little bit of landscape work or redirecting downspouts to another area back onto the street during this construction process. But I think that's one issue, is just the site layout and how this project fits in with the rest of the neighborhood, which, as has been pointed out, has been changing in new construction adjacent to historic construction. Historic houses being fully refurbished to their original condition and others with additions. The next issue is, as Mike has said, are the materials, the massing, the detailing that is consistent with the, I'm going to say, original bungalow. Again, where do we take it back in time? Do we, as is noted, that one gable does not have the clipped hip on the end. It would be beneficial to look at that as a possibility of integrating that once again into the project. So those things considered, I think this is a fully doable project. I'm wondering if a garage at some, we might be seeing the owner come back in the future with a garage on the other portion of this property, since they won't have a garage, or with some other addition, or whether that property is splittable. I don't have answers to those questions, but the project we see before us today, I would have to say, is I would see as approvable from this one commission member. And any other people that would like to speak to it, please do.
Michael.
The new addition does actually change the look of the home. It takes it from that quaint little bungalow and it makes it a little more modern. I had an issue several years ago. I put an addition on my home, and I had these similar shingles, only mine were the scallop fish scale shingling, which I think if maybe integrated into that new portion up above that window, taking those shingles and putting them up there, that would bring that look.
So you're
That's
saying
just a visual for me.
to take the shake style
Right.
in the gable end and
Put them above that window like they are down below. That would change the whole look, I think, of that facade.
That would define the second story, like my house.
Right.
And, yeah.
Yeah. That's my suggestion.
Yeah. The trim band and shakes above, it could look really good, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Maddox, are you willing to do that?
Do I need to commit to that now? Because I'm still waiting on pricing.
These are just suggestions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're suggestions. Yep.
Just a suggestion.
No, I appreciate the suggestion. After seeing it, I do agree. I'm not going to commit to it, though.
Thank you.
Jenny?
I'm Virginia Newell Jackson. I'm the daughter of Betty Newell, who's also here, and she's at 944 Apache Drive, which faces directly that direction. And one of the things that we really appreciate about this, when Dixie had told us, we thought that it would be a lot further in depth to block off her light. But from our perspective, that tower has always been kind of an eyesore across the street, and this is a good solution. The front porch of that house has always been very attractive. Our front porches in our neighborhood are used widely by people sitting and visiting. So I'm very thankful that the front part of that house is still similar, and the whole integrity looks much better. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of weigh in on this. I'm so grateful that we have a very let's say an architect who's very familiar with this kind of thing from another part of the country. I think that's nice to add that extra perspective, and someone who's worked on historic homes. That's delightful, and I am just amazed at just looking at it pretty much practically with the information that we have here. What a remarkably inventive solution that is to the problem of adding a nice master suite to a little cottage. I think it looks. I'm not sure visually, but there's so much going on there anyway. I just think it's brilliant. I just think it's a brilliant solution. So I'd like to thank the architect particularly, and I personally am very grateful for the narrative that he wrote. That made things a lot very clear to me as a commission member, and I think that your experience on commissions, you probably understand that. So thank you very much.
Anyone else have any of the other commissioners? Then can we have a motion? Christy?
Oh, right. I will do this. I move that we approve agenda item HP 17002, request for approval for an addition remodel at 939 Apache Drive in Pinecrest.
Do we have a second, Russ?
I second. Mike seconds.
Pardon me?
I second the motion.
Oh. We have a motion to approve. Can we have commissioners indicate by raising your right hand?
Aye.
You have unanimously been approved.
No, Tony did not approve.
Oh, Tony said no?
Excuse me. The vote is 6-1. It's approved.
Thank you all for coming.
This concludes our meeting of...
Do we have any other items of note from any of the commissioners? Russ, do you have something?
Yes, what's the status? Are we doing it this year, the home tour?
The historic home tour we're doing every other year now because it is quite a
big project.
It's a big project. And so it's an all-volunteer committee. It's myself and then other residents in town who are interested in working on the planning committee. And we decided every other year is about all we could do. So this year is an off year, so we're on an even year schedule. So we will be looking to have a home tour in 2018. And we're still, at this point, my understanding is we're still looking at a May date for that tour.
Thank you.
Yet to be set.
Anyone else? Then we will adjourn our meeting. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very much.
Okay, goodbye.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Mike, welcome to the commission. I'm surprised that this wasn't covered on one of our many